thanks for downloading this episode from Teachers Talk Radio. You can find the full schedule and listen back to all our shows at ttradio.org. Enjoy the podcast.
Good evening, EduFolk, and welcome back. We are back together this evening. I unfortunately abandoned Hannah last week, but we're back in situ. We're back together. The dream team is ready and raring to go. It's Tuesday. It's the late show, and we're kind of doing a sort of, I suppose it's kind of a two-parter, isn't it? But we'll come back to that in a moment. Before we get into what we're talking about this evening and the hilarity that ensued in getting to this evening's show, let's do some life admin, shall we? As always, this show is sponsored by John Catt Educational, and I'm just waiting for Hannah's head to reappear from behind that banner. She's got the pointing in the right direction. Oh, there she is. There she is, sporting lovely new hair, by the way. So for those of you that are watching visually, you can see, watching visually? Well, how else would you be watching? Anyway, I'm digressing already. So John Catt Educational, we're still very privileged to have them as a sponsor with the discount code JCTTR2425. It's still there. It's haunting your dreams at this point, I'm sure, because we've had it for a while, but we may not have it forever. So make use of it. Go to johncattbookshop.com and treat yourself to some reading material. I'm officially out of excuses. Maybe a Halloween present? Is that a thing? I don't know. It's because it's not quite early enough for me to be whinging about Christmas yet, or getting you to buy yourself Christmas gifts. So maybe we'll just call it a Halloween gift or a half-term present to yourself. There you go. It may not turn up during half term if you order now, but you never know. So thank you, as always, to them. Now, Hannah, I feel before we dig into this evening's show and tell everybody what we're talking about, we kind of need to explain, well, I kind of need to explain how we got here.
Yes, so, I feel like we should do a little disclaimer and go, all views and comments that we say tonight are our own and not a reflection of Teachers Talk Radio.
Yes, I think that is fair enough. But we're trying not to pass judgment here. We are here in a capacity to explore this particular topic. So I think it was maybe Monday, it might have even been Sunday afternoon. I can't remember. I was minding my own business. I don't know quite what I was doing. And I looked down on my phone to see a message from Hannah saying, maybe we should, what should we talk about on our show? What about the fact that some teachers use OnlyFans as a side hustle? For those of you that aren't familiar with OnlyFans, how do I explain this? OnlyFans is a subscription adult website. And I think that's all we need to say on the matter. And I said, oh, that sounds really interesting, because there have been cases where teachers have been fired because their accounts have been discovered, or they have quit their teaching job in favor of pursuing a career in OnlyFans. And as I jumped on my enthusiastic little bandwagon, Hannah came back to me with, Lucy, I was kidding. I wasn't actually serious. I'd run with it at this point. So here we are. So this evening's show is my fault, but I also think that in talking about teachers having OnlyFans accounts and things like that, it's there is a more broad aspect to this, in that a lot of teachers now actually do have side hustles and have done for a long time, or additional jobs. I remember, as long ago as when I did my A-levels, which I can't quite do the math, a long time ago, 17 odd years ago. And I vividly remember my psychology teacher back then saying that she would work weekends in her parents' fish and chip shop. So, even kind of 15, 16, 20 years ago, some teachers have had side hustles. I know that in the summer holidays, a lot of teachers work. I don't know if you ever have done, Hannah.
I've done bits. I actually did a show quite early on in my Teacher Talk Radio life on kind of side hustles. Because what was I doing? At that point, I was renting my house out for a film for a friend, and I'd moved out. a week so they could use my house as a set. And then I talked to my friends about it, and one of them had been family models. So her and her kids had gone and modelled for a caravan site. And they still, ironically, years later, still use it on their website. I've got another friend who had a side hustle that worked for a glitter bar and went and did all the festivals and did glitter bars, but they got kind of free tickets with the festivals and stuff. So that sounded like great fun.
Super cool.
I've got another one that used to beach lifeguard in the summer, so they got paid just to sit on the beach during their teacher training. So all sorts of things. Leanne, I used to work on cruise ships in the summer. Kids club kind of teaching, I guess, never ends. she's right about that. I mean, I suppose, yeah, I've tutored, and certainly when you are in international school, tutoring is incredibly lucrative, and I certainly get away with charging more here than I do in the UK. I probably shouldn't say that too loudly, but it is true. Different markets for these things. But my question to you, Hannah, and indeed to anybody out there, is having a side hustle a good thing? Should it be encouraged, or is this a reflection maybe on the fact that we're not getting paid enough, or that it's well, that's it, I guess, that we're not getting paid enough, and so teachers are looking into other means in order to top up their income? I think it is that. I think that we're not getting paid enough. The cost of living is going up. And the pay isn't going up to the equivalent of. So it's really squeezing it, especially like for myself being a single mother, and my mortgage went up by £1,000 a month. That isn't something that I can just absorb on a teaching salary. I've had to find other ways and other things to be able to supplement that just to survive. And I think that's the thing, is that it is becoming more difficult. So these side hustles are becoming more regularly. And I will give a shout out to my amazing technician. We both left our old school at the same time, and we would regularly send each other, every time we saw a meme online about teachers and selling feet, we would send it to each other and we're like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And like, I can see the appeal. If all I have to do is get my dodgy feet out for some money, I'm like, is that such a bad thing? I don't know. And I think that I'm going to read out that. So basically, I saw his tweet on Twitter and I sent it to you, and it was one of those kind of whistleblowing ones, and somebody apparently sent it in by DM. So I don't know how true it is. But 2 of their teachers in their school are on OnlyFans. Can't blame them, really. Students can't access it as they're not 18. And if parents complain about it, just means that they also have OnlyFans. One very openly says that she makes an extra £15,000 a year. And I was like, well, fair play to them, to be fair. Like, if it depends what they're doing, doesn't it? But I was quite shocked by how kind of the responses are. Obviously, and I'm sure Brent, wherever his lovely self is, will come on to him later. But like,
Brent got a bone to pick with you.
For you later. But there's a thing, isn't there, in terms of how we represent ourselves, and we're not bringing the school into dispute. We have that within our contract. So there is
teacher standards as well.
There's standards. So we do have that, but like, what is selling my feet within teacher standards? That's what I want. That's what I want to debate. I don't know whether this kind of links with our ethics show that we did previously, but we're going to go there. But yeah. I'll read out some of the responses. So,
please do. I'm intrigued, and then we'll unpack this a little bit more. I'm going to settle in for this.
Anyone doing this as a teacher would be sacked. It's a breach of teaching standards and brings the profession into dispute. And then people are going, what part? And then somebody else said, and they're reading about your professional conduct and teachers, and then it's like, which part would be specific? So there is a bit of a debate on this, and I think again it depends on what school you're at and how much of it would be. And then somebody else, but this is not something to be proud of. This level of professionalism in teaching is getting worse and worse. And I was like, somebody else put, ironic, because the reason for this is the low pay, which is probably why they're on OnlyFans. And somebody else said, how judgmental. Getting insulted daily, risk of assault, dealing with immaturity, sex jokes and euphemisms regularly. OnlyFans is actually the more respected job.
That statement, that we can unpack. Well, that I want to put a pin in as well and come back to. Yeah. One thing I wanted to address was kids under 18 won't be accessing the site. Pull the other one. I mean, come on. I mean, obviously it didn't exist when we were younger, but I remember at sleepovers all the kinds of like, I don't know if you ever remember chat roulette. You remember that? I'm glad you do, because I was really hoping you wouldn't look at me blankly then. And there were all kinds of, I mean, without, this is a family friendly show ish, but there were all kinds of things on there that would come up that we don't need to go into. But you can't seriously be telling me that if they can find our social media, which, let's face it, some of them do, some of them still manage to, whether it's a parent or otherwise, they're going to find your account. I think there are some parents who take their sleuthing almost too seriously. So
yeah,
that
if the parents got an account and they're potentially using the same device, they can easily get in. I mean, I'm going to show my naivety. My school was using these PowerPoints, and they'd obviously got them from another site, and it was just a bit of fun. And they were kind of, the kids had questions, and it was like, had picture clues underneath that gave the words. And it was on kind of current affairs every week. One of them had OF on it. And and I was like, what's that symbol? I don't know what that is. And my year 10s were like, that's OnlyFans, miss. I'm like, okay, I didn't know what that sign meant, but now I do. Thanks for telling me that. You guys shouldn't know that.
Yeah, then it's like, how many safeguarding things are we going to have to fill out now? Oh, God.
I think the year 10 boys were quick on the fire on knowing what that was.
Yeah, year 10 are my least favorite breed of Pokemon human currently. I did some cover last week with year 10 in the school I'm at the moment, and yeah, they were just a bit to be honest, but I'm sure that I think it was just end of termitis to be honest. But I now want to come back to because you and I'm sure have discussed this before, and I'm sure this has been discussed across Teachers Talk Radio in a variety of capacities. It's that kind of the sort of the church and state thing I kind of want to come back to, the kind of teacher private life versus the teacher, the professional. And selling pictures of your feet, is that crossing a line?
It's only a line if you're putting your feet into jam. I know more about the feet stuff than I know anything else to do with OnlyFans. Which
I feel is a separate conversation that we're not going to have on the show, Hannah. I'm going to phone you afterwards.
But this is the thing. There's another one that I've seen, because obviously me and my friends are memed and the algorithm thinks I need to know this stuff now. I've seen a girl that she posts things that she then does on OnlyFans, and these guys pay her $100, and she writes their names on the bottom of her trainer socks, and then goes and runs in the trainer's socks and films herself running in them and films herself taking the sock off, and then she sends it to them in the post, and she gets paid £100 or $100 per pair of socks that she goes for a run in. Now, like, I'm okay with that. Like, yeah, as a teacher, I feel like I wouldn't judge another teacher if that's how they're making their secret £15,000 on the side.
No, and the thing is, I think we also have to be mindful as well when we're having this conversation that it is different strokes for different folks. It takes all sorts to make up the world, and we certainly aren't in the business of shaming anybody for the way they make money. My kind of stance has always been, as long as it's legal and as long as you're not hurting anybody or yourself, then crack on. But of course, as teachers, there's this still kind of very gray area, because I'm sure, and I'd need to find this, I can't unless I dreamt it or it didn't actually happen, but I'm sure there's been a case before of a teacher, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, a teacher who attended a pole dancing class outside of school, posted some photos on Facebook, and got hauled across the coals for that. Now, pole dancing is used as a regular form of exercise for many people. You might not be wearing much while you're doing it, and arguably should you be posting the photos? But it's I suppose where is that line?
Because I've thought about that. Like, I post pictures of my workouts because it helps me keep on track, and I log the numbers of it. It started with me and my friends in COVID. We used to go to the gym classes together. We all got the same app. We would post pictures of ourselves sweaty, so we, as accountability that we'd all done it, as proof. We'd write down the number workout that we did, and whoever got to do theirs first, we'd all then do the same workout. And it was kind of a bit of a fun way to kind of keep ourselves motivated. And actually, I found doing it, it did keep me accountable, and I did do it. So I've continued that because I want to get to a certain number. I want to get 260 workouts in a year. That is my goal. Granted, I broke 2 feet and then I had a pulmonary embolism. So this is my 3rd year attempting it, but I was really uncomfortable with it at the start, but actually it's kept me accountable and I'm happy with that. But there has been like points where I'm like, I wonder if I was to post these or film my workouts and put them on OnlyFans, would people pay to watch that? Would people pay to see a sweaty picture of me in my gym gear? Like, but and can I use that to help feed my child and keep my house above my head? Like, and I'm quite a savvy person. It's just Theresa May screwed over the mortgages, and I can't get £1,000 a month. My situation was I lost £1,000. My mortgage went up £1,000 a month. My child disability allowance was ruled that he was no longer as disabled as he used to be and went down £300 a month, even though his disability has not changed at all. And my ex-husband went self-employed and his maintenance went from £300 a month to £20 a month. So for me, that was suddenly a massive deficit. And I was literally sitting there going, how do I solve this? How do I keep myself afloat? So I can understand how teachers could get themselves into that situation. And also it is very glamorized. Like I said, there are people that are making crazy amounts of money. There are some girls I've seen chatting about it on podcasts that were kind of making like £100,000 like a week on it. And it is crazy money. And granted, I don't think it should be glamorized in that respect, that our students, some of them think that that is an acceptable way to make money and that is what they can go on to do. But also, I think if somebody gets themselves into that situation and actually that is an option to them and they are comfortable with doing that, then who are we as people to judge them and go, because you do that, you can't do your job properly? Because there's nothing to say they couldn't teach properly if they were doing that. Not saying that I haven't, don't go searching for me, sorry guys. But like, it is, I can understand how people get themselves into that situation.
I think because it's, you know, in some respects, again, it depends kind of what you're doing. It is sort of talked about as easy money, isn't it? Because you're working with what you've got, you know, shake what your mama gave you kind of thing. So how old am I?
It's all about the feet. Get some pedicures. I've never had a pedicure, but I'm like, I might for that.
Well, I mean, you know, the thing is, it's the feet thing are kind of okay, you know, whatever floats your boat. But then if you're exposing more of yourself, or it is, you know, more sexualized, I'm trying to be careful with my language here, then is that the point where we go, well, hang on a minute, you know, you can't be doing that and being a teacher. That's too far. Or should it be all or nothing? You cannot be, because I joked for a time, and I hope my mother never listens to this, but I joked for a time that, you know, if it came to it, that I'd start doing, you know, those sexy voiceovers, you know, those certain apps where it's I believe it's called audio porn.
Yeah.
But it's you know, certain voice actors, and I'll let you imagine the rest. But
I've met somebody that does that for a living. Yeah.
I'd have you. Well, there you go. Yeah. That's another conversation we'll have to have after the show, Hannah. But also, I think those phone lines used to exist. They may even still do the sort of premium phone lines where you can phone and
probably just somebody in their pajamas eating popcorn on the other end.
Yeah, a certain kind of conversation. And you know, is that okay?
It's this thing as well. And I think, like, reading these posts that they've automatically gone, oh, they're making this money on OnlyFans. That's not okay. They can't be doing. But I think that's also because potentially some of our teachers are older generations and they instantly think, oh, they are doing porn and that's what OnlyFans is. But I think OnlyFans is so diverse, and especially if they're only making that little amount of money, I don't think that's the kind of thing that they're doing. And there aren't, like, there is such like, and I don't want to like leave out the men. There are lots of men that do OnlyFans. I've seen kind of what they call thirst traps of guys basically topless doing plumbing, and you can like sign up to OnlyFans and watch them do the plumbing, and not a lot. Like for me, like I can understand why people would subscribe to that. Like, but that would be perfectly. I don't have a problem if that's what somebody wants to do to supplement their income. And that's the thing. I think it's, for me, it's this weird grey area. So is it? But it's the name and the connotation of the name that automatically makes us judge. And does it go back to that kind of like ethics show that actually we had ethics and we shouldn't be involved in that kind of thing at all because of the connotations? Or is it actually we're just being a bit harsh without really understanding the context of what they're doing fully? But like what you said, I think there's a difference between doing something lighthearted and just flirting with the idea of kind of exploiting yourself a little bit for a bit of attention and money, as opposed to full-blown stuff. And also the concept of maybe possibly using the teacher angle. I know there was one lady that got fired for doing OnlyFans, and I believe like some of it, she was the sexy teacher on OnlyFans and would use that as her kind of thing. And for me now, that is a line that I feel is kind of really wrong to kind of cross over that kind of that lifeline between kind of being a teacher and doing that kind of adult thing.
No, the fetishization of teachers
makes me uncomfortable.
Is a hard pass. Just anything involving kind of school uniforms and things like that. And again, you know, this is, as we said, you know, this is an opinion I have. Other people might not feel as strongly, but again, that to me, you know, I'd rather go with sending my socks than doing that, because and it's the same, you know, when nurses and police officers, I mean, it's all fetishized. But then again, I'm also thinking in the next breath, you know, I've definitely gone and sat in the audience for Magic Mike, where I think at one point, I can't remember if they dress up as, oh no, it's fireman or something, something of that persuasion. So am I a huge hypocrite? Probably in what I've just said. So yeah, but I've always kind of felt quite, I mean, maybe because it's my own profession, but I've always felt quite strongly about that. And now I've also ruined Magic Mike for myself.
So I do think that if we're on that kind of topic, I do think like there should be a law brought in about having porn that uses girls in it, that in a school uniform. I think that should just be banned. I feel like that's sexualizing young women and also getting boys and men into kind of fantasizing about that. So I just think all of that kind of, any kind of school scenario, teacher, student, anything involving a uniform that's linked to a school should be banned. I think there should be a law against that to kind of protect that and break that kind of brain kind of stimulus and thinking that way. I think that's something that the government could quite easily do to protect our young people. Because I know I watched the show with Zara, is it McDermott, the one that's dating Sam Thomas? Yeah, she did a show all about that and kind of the sexualization that young girls go through. If you search up school uniform, it will all be kind of like the short skirts, like thing. It's, you don't get a school uniform site, you get all the kind of sexualized Halloween costumes of young girls. You don't get a school uniform site. Especially if you search girls' school uniform, you instantly get all of that stuff. And like these young girls saying that when they walk down the road, they get wolf whistled at, they get looked at. And I think that's because of the nation. That's what people associate with that kind of uniform. And actually, we as society need to be going, no, we shouldn't be associating it with that, and we should start a law and kind of protect girls like that.
But then are we also in danger? I mean, I know this is a weird angle to be kind of devil's advocating from, but roll with me for a second. Okay. Are we, in kind of having the conversation that we're having, are we sort of cherry picking and saying, you know, as far as you and I, two female teachers in their 30s who've kind of opened up this discussion or can of worms or whatever you want to call it, are we sitting here going, well, that's okay, but that's not, and that's okay, and that's not? Because they're going to be people who feel differently to us. They're going to be people who are going to say, no, any kind of sort of, I don't even know how you'd explain it, selling of yourself in any way is unacceptable. Or you say, okay, as long as, you know, you can't be identified as who you are. Because I suppose you could do talking about feet an awful lot, but it's an easy one to roll with. You know, you could just, there'll be no way necessarily, unless someone can identify you by your feet, which perhaps would be a little strange. I mean,
well,
this is new territory for me.
Okay, I'm going to roll with your devil's advocate. So, would it be okay if a teacher side hustle was to be a butler in the Buff?
Interesting.
Especially if they're a young trainee teacher, would that side hustle be acceptable?
Or do a burlesque show at the weekend. Yeah, I suppose it's
or a stripper. If they were a stripper at the weekends, would that be okay? There must be teachers that do that. I guess OnlyFans is much easier than actually dancing in a nightclub. But actually, if you're dancing in a nightclub, at least you know that there's bouncers and they're going to be IDing, and you're not going to get your students in there.
You'd hope not, but
we're going down a rabbit hole.
It doesn't stop a parent turning up, does it? I mean, and it's, but also, is it because, you know, we have also said that we are entitled to a private life. We're entitled to kind of, you know, are you entitled to when you're off the clock? And I know we've talked about this with our ethics show, and I think even in part in our well-being show. As long as you are turning up on Monday morning, you know, fully clothed and kind of good to go, does it matter what you're doing in your free time? Is it anybody's business? What's JBL saying? I suspect most students don't want their parents, priests, or teachers to be pole dancers or Chippendales. I mean,
you're not wrong.
I suppose priests are another one that are fetishized in a way, aren't they?
Yeah.
I've got kind of, even, you know, in something like Fleabag, if you remember. Yeah, so yeah, I feel like that's a rabbit hole I don't want to go down.
You want some of these other responses?
Go on then.
We've got, as a recently retired teacher, I'm pretty shocked by this, which probably reflects my age, but I don't know much about OnlyFans. But isn't it sexually explicit? If so, it is a big no-no, as that is if teachers are involved. Somebody else gone, people outraged by the indecency should demand higher salaries for teachers so they don't have to film themselves naked on the internet to make ends meet, just for a vacation every now and then. Somebody else goes, bringing the profession into dispute. I reckon most employers would say. Somebody else gone, pretty bad, but it is legal. Somebody else has agreed with, I wouldn't mind betting that under 18s are accessing OnlyFans. So somebody else has gone, that was me and identify as a him, not a she. I said £15 and not 15,000. And somebody else has gone, I hope they're declaring it to HMRC because that is non-working income. So make sure they've declared it.
I mean, I say assume, but OnlyFans, you know, that their tax. Well, we're not here to call them out on their tax or financial practices. That's a separate department. That's not our department. The other thing I was going to sort of draw comparisons to, and again, this is kind of, you know, you were talking about, you know, posting, you know, your gym workout or beach photos in a bikini, your workouts, whatever. You know, a lot of us are still posting that stuff on social media. Which, as much as we have everything kind of, or we think we have everything on lockdown, and you know, a lot of schools now, you're actually subject to a proper social media screening, and you know, rightly or wrongly. So you know, if you're going to talk about kind of monetizing your content, as it were, you know, is it, if you're putting it on social media, then is it okay to post it and actually get paid for it?
Same as there's quite a lot of these kind of teacher influencers coming about and doing their shows in their classroom, doing little snippets and also kind of product placements and promoting different things. Like, is it not kind of a similar thing? You're just monetizing yourself. Where's the line in terms of we should link it back where our ethics stands previously?
See, yeah, I mean, Teacher Talk or whatever it's called, or you know, what is it called? I don't know. Does it have a nickname? I'm sure it does.
Is it Teacher Talk? feel like that's right.
We'll call it. We'll go with that.
Isn't right.
If you're asking me personally, do I have a problem with teacher talk? I don't. I have a problem with them using their students.
Yeah.
I know some use them and blur them out or just have their voices in there, because you're getting into kind of consent arguments and things like that, because we've definitely, and I know that Tom Rogers has talked about cases like this before, where teachers have been filmed against their will. This is, again, probably getting into kind of a separate show altogether, where if we're not allowing students to film us, and we would be because all manner of things for, safeguarding, things being taken out of context. I mean, just the anxiety that induces in me. So should we not be setting the example by sort of saying, by all means, have teacher talk, have your thing, but it's kind of keep your students out of it, show their work, or even then showing their work without their consent. It's a difficult one. I mean, I don't know how you feel about teacher talk.
I guess like showing their work. I quite a lot tell, like on Instagram, show my students' work, but I'll kind of tell them, and they're kind of quite
you ask them first for sure.
But sometimes I'm just going to take pictures because some of them are really good, but it doesn't have any of their names or anything like that. There's no recognizable kind of things in that respect. But yeah, I find the whole concept of setting up a camera at the back of the classroom to film myself counting down or doing something and then to place that online a little bit uncomfortable. And I'm like, I feel like it's only a couple of steps away from filming yourself for OnlyFans, isn't it? Like it's not. It's a similar kind of. It's a little bit egotistical, isn't it? That kind of, I'm going to film myself in the classroom with my kids, showing them how amazing I am,
showing you how it's done,
and I'm going to do it for all the likes and get millions of people to like and comment and share about how they wish they had teachers like me, but actually I'm just young and good looking. But I like, do you know what I mean? Like if I got my 75-year-old mum to film her with her classes, who absolutely adore her and is a very good teacher, she's not going to get the same reaction, really, is she? So it is a bit self-indulgent. That's what I mean. It's not that far away from doing that thing. A lot of them are kind of young, good-looking men and women who are teachers, and I feel like they're using that to create their platform to then get money from the amount of likes and videos they get. Do
I mean? But you still follow some of them, right? Because I know I do.
Maybe
she's very tight-lipped on that one. No, I do. There are some of them that I actually do think.
But I was going to say one I do very much like, to the point where I have bought his book and read it to my son, so I do rate it.
Yeah, so I think
in that respect.
But I suppose aren't we all on the hustle now? I mean, the world is changing as well, and in terms of thinking about teacher recruitment and teacher retention, in order, are we getting to the point where maybe we're going to suggest that we have to allow certain things to slide in order to keep teachers in the profession? Or are we really going too far then? If we're okaying teachers to be on whether it's OnlyFans or anything else of that persuasion, or whether it is, doing the voiceovers, because I mean, as much as I've joked about it, I also realized that I have one of those voices that people know, like people who know me know my voice. Would I kind of get hauled across the coals for that? But if I said, if I then went to my head teacher and pleaded my case and said, look, I don't get paid enough and I want to stay in teaching, but I need to be doing this, would their argument be, well, why don't you just go and work down in the local pub? Well, it doesn't pay the same, does it?
I'm going to throw it out there. I apologise. Are we after the watershed? Well, it's after 8 o'clock. We're close enough. It's the holidays. What is the difference if, obviously, there's people doing that kind of thing for money and what have you, but if we're saying that that's not ethical, what about if you're a teacher that's into other sexual things that kind of is like maybe a swinger in their local community or something like that, where you're going to come across potentially parents. Are we saying that as teachers you can't do that kind of thing either, because if you're caught out we could hold them to the same standards? Or is that a double standard?
Do you know what? I hadn't thought about that. And as much as, you know, there are probably some people listening going, really, Hannah and Lucy, do you really need? But I think it is a valid thing. And there are certain parties and certain events and certain practices that people partake in. And, you know, we are grown-ups here. We don't kink shame. We don't do any of those things. We're not here for that. But I think it is a valid thing, because then could you be, I don't mean held to ransom. I was going to say, no, that's not what I meant. I meant end up being blackmailed by somebody. Or are we going too dark here? Are we kind of really sort of unpacking that too much? I think it's possible, because again, out of the realms of your professional capacity, should you be able to do as you wish? Should you be able to?
It comes back to when we talked about that ethics show. I know somebody that had an affair with a parent, and they split up that marriage and then ended up marrying that parent. But from an ethical point of view, I would never date a child that I teach's parent, whether they was definitely not if they're in a relationship, and certainly it gives me the ick even if they're kind of single. Like, I don't think ethically that that's something I can do as a teacher in that situation. But obviously some other people have and do, and that kind of situation does happen. So it's like, but then as a school, you couldn't fire them for doing that. It's not, that isn't kind of bringing the school into dispute. It's a personal matter. So isn't something like doing a show, something like OnlyFans or what have you, a personal matter?
I mean, I think we are going to see more of these cases coming up. And I think that, you know, we as teachers, you know, I don't think are always necessarily afforded the kind of the protections we deserve. But then I also am acutely aware of, you know, at what point are we taking the mick? At what point are we going kind of, well, you know, if you want to do your OnlyFans that much, or your whatever it is, then, you know, you have to leave the profession. You can't be a pillar of the community Monday to Friday, for argument's sake, and then, you know, doing that on a site. You got to kind of pick one. And I've been looking at some articles, and I have yes. So I don't miss teaching. I make 60,000 a month from OnlyFans. She resigned from her teaching job in Glasgow following a probe into the scandal. And this was Kirsty Buchan. Would you say that's her name? Buchan. And she has no regrets over her controversial career switch.
Yeah. So she was resigned from her high school. Former physics teacher told how she's putting her lucrative earnings from the X-ray subscription service to good use by supporting loved ones. Mum of one, I've walked away with my head held high. I just wanted to match my teacher wages and get a wee bit more. 1 month she made £60,000, and that's more than I made in a year as a teacher. I invested that money in my house, paid off my debts. I took my family on holiday and got my mum a new washing machine. I'm proud. So so they were told, the Sun newspaper were told in December 2022 how she had landed in hot water when bosses discovered her sexy sideline, and that she resigned from the school following the probe. And that's the thing. They said that the regulators wanted to haul her in front of a fitness to teach panel. And I don't like where do you sit with that? Like, if she's gone, actually, no, I'll resign, but she wants the door left open to go back to teaching at a later date. What happens if she's actually gone, this is just a phase, I want to go back to teaching? And that kind of thing is going to stop a good potential teacher coming back to the profession, because they have done that bit, got themselves out of debt, and actually want to go back to teaching and make a difference. I feel like everyone has like a spotted past. Everyone's got, like, we're all allowed to make mistakes and correct them. Is it fair? A fitness to teach panel?
Well, this is it, because I think what bothers me about that is the very nature of what that panel is called, fitness to teach. Because for my part, I don't believe that, doing OnlyFans impairs your fitness to teach, in terms of you're a capable teacher, you can still be a capable teacher. It's whether the title of it's wrong. It's whether you should be given what you are doing on the sidelines, whether you should be allowed. It's not because your capability or fitness teach has nothing to do with this. That's not what I don't think should be called into question. It's whether, I suppose, ethically, you should be allowed to kind of have your cake and eat it, if that makes sense.
Because she said, the General Teaching Council for Scotland said I breached my contract by being unprofessional. They're trying to remove a qualification I've worked hard for. I don't know if I'd go back to teaching, but I cared immensely about the kids.
So she had her license, so she had her status.
I think, I don't know whether she had it removed, but they were trying to, unless she resigned. So, yeah, she just said, critics claim she is charging for sexy snaps under the online name Jessica Rabbit. So, they're not naked pictures from what I don't know whether they just didn't post those, but the ones on the article are just her in her underwear. And she's gone, you can hate me if you want. I don't like narrow-minded people who make judgments on folk they don't truly know. I have an everyday woman's body and don't mind showing my flaws. So is there a positive that, you can... She said this story is about standing up for my story on OnlyFans and promoting feeling good about yourself. I'm not looking for the world, just to be able to provide for my son. Like I said, I can understand how she's got there. But
the thing is, yeah. I mean, you'd never have this as kind of a student debate, because it just would never. Well, actually, I don't know. I mean, I suppose if you framed it in the right way, but I'd be so intrigued to be a fly on the wall to ask a kind of panel of students, older students, what they kind of thought about something like this. Because of course, all these cases and situations are dealt with the higher ups, so head teachers. I mean, it might even escalate further if these things go to tribunals, etc. But if you're, again, going to talk about teacher capability and, kind of lessons and all of that stuff, and how they performed as a teacher, I think that it's unfair to call that into question because they're doing something. But then again, is there a morality issue?
And I think it's she said that she's just posting pictures of her underwear and bikinis. Like, what's the difference between us doing that on our own socials from our holidays? She's just doing it behind a paywall and getting paid for it. But I found it even more interesting that it's I believe it's the parents that dobbed her in. She previously told Scottish Sun that she blames the parents of her former pupils after the X-rated content was uncovered. She said that it was their fault for not allowing their kids to find the site by not protecting their devices. Some people are a bit so judgmental, but I'm the only 18+ site. And if the kids get access to the content, then that is down to their parents failing to protect their devices. Who are others to judge? It's my story to tell. I will do anything to provide for my son. How many parents can say they do that? But now people have asked me if I'm being stupid, but I'm not stupid. I have a physics degree and I work hard. I could go to my work and not be respected by my bosses, or I can post pictures and make money to provide for my son. To me, that's using my brain.
I mean,
it's going strong.
I mean, I hear her, but also once it's on the internet, it's on the internet, which means that there'll be, when your son is old enough to access, or, this will be floating around, as will the articles. So how will you feel about, it's a different conversation, but how will you feel about it then? And as you rightly say, it's one thing. I mean, again, people might feel differently. You can kind of, if you want to you can get your body out at any age. I'm not gonna chastise you for that, but I feel like generally you might be more inclined when you're a bit younger. And then when that sort of stops or no longer becomes your main source of income, or is, for whatever reason, it can't continue, whether it's age or something else, what does that then leave?
Indeed. Do you want to go? Well, first of all, should we just have a little chat about our lovely sponsor, John Catt, and then we'll come back and see the results of your poll. So if anybody wants to go pop over to Teach Talk Radio on Twitter or to Lucy's Twitter and vote in our poll and comment on our poll.
This is the part 2, is it? We're going to go on to part 2.
Then you can do that, and we'll be discussing the results momentarily.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. John Catt have an exceptional collection of book titles that cover a range of educational topics, ideas and research. The books are aimed at forward-thinking schools and support best practice teaching for both primary and secondary education. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Now, I don't know if we kind of really got to a conclusion on the OnlyFans thing. I think we have to leave it open, really. I think it's one that we've sort of gone kind of up and down and through it, but I don't know. I think we'll leave that one open. So if you're listening back to this, or indeed if you are listening right now and you have any thoughts that you would like to share, please do get in touch with us. Please do leave a comment, and be intrigued to know your thoughts. So
are we going feet are okay, but otherwise no?
And smelly socks.
If you wouldn't put it on a projector at assembly, don't do it.
And you know, that's the age old. It's like what we used to say about social media, isn't it? If you wouldn't say it to your mum, you know. But I have to say, just on that note, some of you get those Facebook memories that prop up, and in the early days of Facebook, where you deemed everything interesting. So Lucy's just had a cheese sandwich and is very happy about it. Just the unhinged nonsense. I mean, it's never going to get me in trouble, but it's also, why would anybody care? Anywho, moving on. So as a kind of part 2 to this show, so once I kind of agreed to the kind of OnlyFans side hustle side of it, I also got thinking about reality TV, which I think many of us indulge in, some more than others. And it got me thinking about, a story of a head teacher of mine, a lovely head teacher of mine previously, who shall remain nameless. And we were talking about this in the staff room once. And we were talking about shows we wouldn't go on. And he was just sitting there kind of chilling out, drinking his coffee. He's like, oh, I don't think I'd go on Naked Attraction, which for those of you who are not familiar, it is what it says on the tin.
Please explain it, Lucy.
Please explain it. Oh gosh, I'm going to get
there's people that can't see you, so you need to explain it very
I need to explain
cleverly for the listeners.
So Naked Attraction is a dating show where there is a selector person who comes to choose a date, and she or he or they can has a selection of I think it's 5 different colored pods, and in each pod is a person. But the twist, if you like, if you hadn't got it from the title already, is that they are not clothed, and they gradually get revealed bit by bit from the feet upwards, and they are eliminated purely based on kind of visual attraction, to the point where I think 2 are left, and then they go on a date. So it's what they call dating in reverse. So an ex-head teacher of mine decided that one was not for him, which we were all mightily relieved about. But this also got me thinking about teachers and reality TV in general. So if we're still in the dark a little bit about the kind of OnlyFans and some of the side hustles, are we also applying the same thing to reality TV? So I stuck a quick poll out earlier today. And I said, teachers, would you appear on a reality TV show? And I gave the options yes, no, or depends which one. Now, I didn't really know which way this would go, but only 8% of you who said yes, this is out of 50 votes thus far, 80% said no, and 12% said depends which one. And I asked some people to explain themselves, and some of the feedback on this, well, are you ready for this? So George Bream, who was actually my first ever guest on Teachers Talk Radio. Hi, George. I don't need other people to judge my life or me. I judge myself enough. And I said I fall into this category too. Dearly beloved host and friend of ours, Brent Poland, speaking of nudity, I would appear on a reality TV show, maybe Naked Teacher Dating, or Survivor. I would be like my own Truman Show. So, I don't know, maybe stay tuned for that one. I told Brent on the back of that I'm sending him my therapy bill. Another response, too many people hate teachers. Why would anyone put themselves out there for even more bile from strangers on the internet? Which I think is a valid point. Hannah, is there a reality TV show you would go on? And if so, are you willing to reveal which one?
Well, I've glammed up tonight for the occasion. So if anybody's out there recruiting, I feel like if I'll be on that like Davina McCall old lady one where Date My Mum. Me on that one with my son secretly in the background going, oh, I'm on a date with that one. But he's a bit young for that yet. But yeah, I feel like that's the only place. There was, I don't know whether you know this or remember this, there was an ex-Teacher Talk Radio host that got through to the final round, I think, of one of the Love is Blind auditions that didn't quite get through, but they were potentially going to go on that. And I just Googled just to double check. I found it on X, so I don't know how accurate it is. But apparently this was posted in 2019. Apparently there was a teacher on Naked Attraction. And everyone's gone, they're getting sacked this morning. And lots of people, again, going, so they should. Some people need to be a bit more professional and have a bit more work ethic. I saw it and thought exactly the same. Ooh, all these pupils seeing their teacher absolutely naked. Yuck. Oh, my God, why am I even watching this? It's car crash TV. They should be sacked, including the production team. But I'm a bit like, you guys are all watching it. So, like, is that, like, yeah, I do think potentially Naked Attraction. But then also, like, what, again, like, where's the line? What if your teacher actually, they love a bit of being a nudist? What if they just love going on holiday, chilling out in their birthday suit on holiday, and accidentally they book the same place as their student and a student wants down the beach, and then you're like, oh, okay, like, and that's the thing. I'll go sunbathe down the beach and I'll pull a strap down or unbuckle so I don't get tan lines, and students will rock on up. I'm like, great. But like, it's just, and I remember going paddleboarding in a very, very hot June with all my friends in bikinis, and who rows past but 2 year 11s in a little rowboat. And we looked at each other and they're like, all right, miss. And I'm like, these were two very, very naughty boys on a romantic little rowboat for two. So I went I won't talk about this if you don't talk about this. And they went, agreed. Like it was not secret. You don't tell anybody I've seen you in a bikini. I won't tell anybody that I've seen you two in a lovely little romantic row for two. So like, but again, I felt awkward in that situation that I was caught, and that's just me living my life with my friends out having a nice paddleboard in a bikini. Like,
but I've talked openly here about running into, being in Portugal. I've run into families' parents on the beach numerous times, and every time I want to dig a very deep hole in that sand and bury myself in it, because I'm just like, this is. But then again, I'm just out living my life. I'm not doing anything wrong. But in my head, I'm like, this is equivalent to seeing me in my underwear, and I wouldn't turn up to school in my underwear. So, oh God. But
then, so there was, I can't remember his name now. There was was it last summer or the summer before? There was the Love Island where one of the guys was a PE teacher, and he has gone back to teaching. He ended up winning with the girl who was a social worker, and she's still a social worker from what I understand. And actually, they were very, very sweet. They did very well, obviously won. But like, and I felt like they were quite respectable in it, but obviously they still competed in the challenges and did things like that, and obviously were filmed in their bikinis and board shorts left, right and center, and obviously there would have been a lot of students watching that, a lot of parents watching that.
Yeah, but it's on national, primetime television. People are going to see it, and even if you don't see it directly, someone's going to tell you, oh, I saw.
But is it a female thing? Is it more like weird to see a woman in a bikini than it is a man in board shorts?
Now that's interesting. That's an interesting angle. Yeah, are we projecting our kind of, my insecurities,
or the kind of that, oh my god, there's boobs. Like, I guess it's not like that much different seeing a teacher in just having their top off, because they quite often PE teachers are going to be in shorts and tight t-shirts, as opposed to like a teacher that would wear full, like I know I go full on frumpy. If I'm in teacher mode, I am wearing like something quite baggy, very loose, over the knees, with some really thick tights, with a big old grandma jumper. Like, I am not in there looking to get attention, because that's the status that I have as a teacher. That is what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Can't see up it, down it, or through it. No, thank you.
So then seeing me, I even find sometimes a bit self-conscious, like going in on a non-school uniform day and wearing jeans. Like, I'm like, oh, these are a bit tight. Are the students going to look at me differently because I'm like, they can see me? And I think that goes for that. Like, I do, like, I live at a seaside town. I do bump into students when I'm in my bikini. But like, also, that isn't something I should be ashamed of. But it has that fear of kind of like, oh my God, they've seen me like this now. Or they've seen me, if I wear, like, in the summer, I wear hot pants and like short shorts because it's really hot and they're just comfortable. And like them seeing me in what I'm wearing, but I'm like, this is summer holidays and it's hot. That's okay. But I think, and again, I don't know I don't know whether the kids, like, if like, granted, if I was to do one, I probably would do something like Love is Blind or something like that, where I don't necessarily have to be in a bikini. Or if I'm going to be in a bikini, they can send me to Mexico and I'll be quite happily be on telly in a bikini in Mexico, because I got a free holiday that's not in term time and hasn't cost me the earth. So like, from that point of view, I'm like, I'm in. Send me on a holiday where I don't have to pay school holiday costs and prices. I'm in.
We need a travel company to sponsor TTR, although I don't quite know how we'd wangle that.
Would you do one of those? What's that coach trip one where we're all on a bus and you vote people off and it'll all do
coach trip.
Coach trip. Do that. And
we go on coach trip, Hannah. I feel like we would be very funny on coach trip.
And same as I don't know whether I could do like a Big Brother, because I'd like to think I would, but I would go into teacher mode and tell other people off, and then maybe actually, or there's the other side, because it's teacher me and then the other side of me. Would the kids see the other side and actually then them like look at me differently if they saw like the fun party side? I don't know. Like, I would feel uncomfortable them seeing it, especially a Big Brother thing 24/7.
Oh, I couldn't cope with boredom. My ADHD could never.
Like, they would see full ADHD.
Oh my God, wouldn't they? Can you imagine? Because you're bored, you don't have anything to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't watched Big Brother in years, but I gather it's still largely the same.
I would like to think that if I went on a show like Love is Blind or something along those lines, that the kids would back me and think it's quite sweet and quite endearing and maybe like cheer me on and hope. Like, do you know what I mean? They'd want me to find love and be like, yeah, go Miss Wilson. I don't know. I'd like to think that the kids would see the sweet side of it. If I was to go on like, what's the Around the World one or something, like,
well, I think they'd be quite into that. Fine. Good luck getting the time off, though.
Yeah, I think they'd love to watch me on an SAS. I reckon that they'd be like, yeah, she's hardcore.
You do. I can see, actually, SAS, Who Dares Wins. That's Hannah. Like,
I'm very good sleep deprived and like surviving.
I'm going to nominate you for that one when you're not looking.
If they can do one in a nice hot country, I'd cope. I'm not so much the
not so much the kind of Highlands of Scotland or wherever they've shot it previously.
What would you pick for yours?
I'd love to do Race Across the World. I thought about actually signing my brother and I up for it, but my brother and I are very, very, very different people, and he is kind of, everything must have a schedule and everything kind of this and this. And, you know, I'm wrong about everything. So it would make very entertaining telly for everybody else, but I don't think both of us would come back alive. I think someone would
should it be like me and you go and do something like that to try and change people's perception of teachers?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is also, and speaking of the time off thing, I'd love to know, like for the ones like that are over a period of time, like Love Island, Race Across the World, Traitors, actually quite a few of them, you know, that's a significant, and these are not being shot in the summer holidays often, you know, so how are you getting away with that? Or are you just quitting? Is that what people are doing? They're just going like, you know, I will tell them I'm a teacher because, you know, in kind of, you know, name I am, but I've quit my job, and I'm hoping that, you know, are these teachers then kind of thinking, oh, well, you know, stuff the side hustle, stuff this, you know, I'm going to go on reality TV, get famous, and make my fortune that way.
But then how do you time it to hand in your notice to be able to go and attend these things? Surely there's not like we'll hire you for the show, but you've got to wait 8 weeks to hand in your notice and then be able to do it. I don't know how logistically it would work. And I'm trying to think in my head, what teachers have we seen on any of these kind of things that have actually potentially made people think, because I think teachers get such a bad rep in the press. Is it actually, we do need more teachers in these kind of things, so therefore they get we shed a better light on it, and actually we see somebody like in Big Brother talking about their life as a teacher and the things that they've been through, the way students teach us, the way teaching has changed, to actually kind of make the public aware of what the school environment is now, because it's not what it was like when they were used to be in school.
No, and often, I mean, I can't recall a single occasion where these teachers have gone on these shows and actually had any discussion in any way linked to education, teaching, or anything like that. The only time that has happened is when you had, I don't know if you remember, they were a while ago now, but the kind of Educating Essex, Educating Yorkshire, which were actually centered around being in school. But those, I mean, I often thought at the time, God, how are they filming this? You know, is this kind of, is it not a bit weird? You know, so people are going to act differently, but I don't know. I used to love those. That was great TV actually at the time. And I know that, but I mean, actually some of the kids have gone on to do really, really well and have high flying career. There was one kid, the kid who stuttered.
Yes. He just,
what's his name? He's not a kid anymore. He's a full grown young man. And his name escapes me. And I'm sure somebody listening to this is screaming, going, "It's this, Lucy. This is his name." I follow him on X. I should know.
I'm pretty sure he follows Teacher Talk Radio. I saw him.
He does.
We got very excited when he followed us. So yeah, if you can remember what his name is, pop it in the comments. But yeah, I just think, and like obviously there's like Waterloo Road and that kind of perception of teachers.
Trails. See, and what was the one that was on? Was it Ackley Bridge?
Yes, Ackley Bridge. Yeah. But I don't know whether there's actually anybody kind of gone into kind of reality TV that genuinely is kind of talking about what teaching's like, and like, because I just feel like teaching as a whole needs like a PR crisis team, and actually needs to kind of turn it around and get kind of the public on board and talking about kind of what it's like to be a teacher. That's how we recruit people. Talk about how it changed and what we can do.
Leanne saying Musharraf. Yeah, I think that sounds. Yeah, I know it's M, but yes, thank you, Leanne. I knew someone would know. Someone useful would know. Sorry, Hannah, what was that last bit? That you
I just like that teaching gets a bad rep, and we're quick to pull people up in this profession with our kind of moral compasses that you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. Do we actually need to loosen them so that teachers are let loose into the public realm and actually shown more on these kind of shows to actually show what we're capable of and actually make people realize that we are humans? Because I feel like there's a lot of teacher bashing in the media and by the public, and I think we're very much done differently. Oh my God, this would be the reality TV show I would go on. Does it count as reality TV show? Supermarket Sweep. I would 100%.
You went on it, JBL.
Did you go on it, JBL? Because I'm very jealous if you actually went on it.
Yes, we need confirmation ASAP as to whether you actually were a contestant on that. And if so,
I grew up in a hotel, so we didn't go to supermarkets. We just got food from the kitchen. And they jokingly gave my mum a basket, and she'd go over to the hotel and shop in the hotel fridge and take it back and cook for us. So I never went to a supermarket as a child, which I found quite traumatic. But I still now find it so exciting to go to the supermarket and how quickly I can go around and get all my shopping. Because like Supermarket Sweep was like, I didn't know what supermarkets were, and I just was so obsessed with it as a child. That would have to be my favourite show. But there are I've had
noise cancelling headphones in the supermarket. You love it.
I will remember where everything is in the supermarket. So when I write my shopping list, I write it in food order for what I need to pick up at what point to be able to be the quickest around the supermarket.
We have very different kinds of ADHD.
Oh my God, Dale Winton, Supermarket Sweep in 1993. Well, JBL, you like the most important person that I've associated with now. That's I'm very jealous.
I love that as a claim to fame as well.
Yeah.
Is Dale Winton still with us, or is he? No.
He's on to other pastures.
That's a side track.
But I've had that. A chap at my old school got onto the final of the Chase, and I don't think he won, but it was him versus the Chasers. Oh my gosh. And I have had a friend do this show, which was amazing. Leanne's gone, I've always wanted to be on Fun House. They need to bring that back. I want an adult Fun House. Oh my God, that'd be so much fun. Yes.
Yeah. So
see, again,
we've got lots to do after this show. We've got conversations to have and pitches to various TV companies to make.
Well, I'm gonna whack out another claim to fame. So there is one, and I do share this one with the students, and I have had students find it and go, is this you? So my claim to fame is that I'm secretly in a Calvin Harris music video. So I went to Ibiza and was very drunk and partying, and I just thought it was normal that there were cameras in Pasha because I'd never been to Pasha, and I thought that was just the done thing. And then it wasn't till much later when I was living abroad and sat watching MTV in Thailand that I was like, that is my face. So there's a video that the first 3 seconds is a close-up of my sweaty face going, like at the start of the video. So that is my claim to fame that has been seen by like 36 million people. And I do tell the kids that I'm like, yeah, that's my claim to fame. He's still relevant. They know who he is. Like, that's my claim to fame. And they're like, brilliant. Like, what were you doing now? I was like, I was having a lovely good time in Ibiza. That was a very long time ago. You won't catch me doing that now. Maybe in Pop World on a Saturday night. But like, it's a bit of fun. But yeah, like, is that something that I wasn't a teacher at that point, so it was fine. But like, would that be something that I'd be conscious of now? I don't know.
Okay, so let's, on that note, should we flip reverse it and sort of say, okay, if you have in a past life, whether it's the OnlyFans thing or whether it's the a reality TV thing, or that, should that then impact your ability to go into our beloved profession?
Well, I don't think it should, and I think that's what kind of links in a little bit with that what that woman was saying when they were trying to take her of her teaching status. I think if she decides to give that up, she should be allowed to come back to teaching. I do feel a bit like, I don't know whether I still like am on the fence of whether that's okay to do whilst you're teaching. I'm a bit like, it's your own body, it's your own thing. Is there any other job that you would be sacked from if you were doing that on the side? Like, what other profession wouldn't that be except for maybe being a politician? But who knows? Maybe there's a whole kink for that.
I've just had kind of, I'm going to have so many weird dreams about, I don't know, Boris Johnson or Keir Starmer or just...
I mean, we've seen how Matt Hancock grabs that ass, haven't we?
No. You had to go there, didn't you? That image will haunt, I think, most of us.
I mean, that video went viral for other reasons.
Oh, yeah, that was...
Yeah, so would it be okay?
Sorry, I'm back in the room.
I don't know whether it's okay to do it the other way or not. Like, I think it is. But then it's what other profession would you get sacked if you did that?
The police? Actually, no. Would you? No. I don't know.
I mean, I know one, but they were full on. So, but then it kind of involved, there was a prison officer that was filming having sex with prisoners and posting it on there, and she got sacked.
That is obviously so many violations of that's
it's like,
no.
I don't know. Would you get sacked as a police officer if you were doing that in your own time, not in uniform, in other uniforms? Would
No.
that be... I don't know what other profession you would get sacked for it.
No, I don't think you would.
So
I don't
why
know.
are we held in such a different regard?
Interesting. Answers on a postcard, please, for that one. I'm intrigued. Any nurses out there? Are you doing it? But then again, it doesn't impact on your ability to do your job.
I don't think somebody doing OnlyFans has an impact on someone's ability to teach.
No. But coming back to reality TV, I do think it would be quite strange to have a conversation, particularly if you're going on something like Naked Attraction. If you had that conversation with your head teacher, like, what are you doing this weekend, Lucy? Oh, well, I'm getting everything out on national TV to find a date, but I'll be back on Monday. I kind of want to do it just to see the reaction, like not go on the actual show, but just say something like that just for funsies.
See what their reaction would be, and filming for that matter. I agree. I don't think Naked Attraction is necessarily one I would go on from a teaching point of view. But then it's one of those. But I just automatically go, yeah, but what if you do that kind of show, you're probably quite confident naked. You might be one of these naturists that do these other things. Like, are we just judging somebody for their lifestyle? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking, I just want to go on Bake Off, to be honest, or something like that. What's Leanne saying? I think nowadays you just have to be so careful what goes out on the internet with you in, possibly for any job. It wasn't like this back in the 90s. Sorry, back in the day comment. Well, no, we're all, well, children of the 90s.
And that's the thing. Like, I think it's one of those as well. Like, obviously, we've seen it a lot with kind of celebrities and things, their demise from posting inappropriate tweets, etc., that have come back to haunt them in later days. And quite often that happens from a reality point of view. I do wonder, like, I had a lovely partying lifestyle back in the day, hence why I ended up in a Calvin Harris music video. But like, I couldn't like think of anything that would be inappropriate on any of my social medias other than me being drunk and having fun. And like, when I started my teaching career, my very first year 13s, when they were leaving, they found my social media and they took a picture of my head off it and made a card and put my head on the card. And they did go, Miss, we could see quite a bit of your social media. You need to check that. And I then was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize my settings were like this. But obviously, like, that was like, I just got into teaching. I didn't even do my teacher training. I just went straight into teaching. So that was like day dot. But it wasn't like crazy stuff. It was just that they could see me kind of posing with friends, drunk, and quite often we'd go out with not a lot on. But that was because I was young and had a body and could do that. But those were the days. Before my child ruined my hips. But it's just...
I feel like we have gone off on a tangent here. Anyway, carry on.
But you know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those. I wouldn't necessarily put myself in a reality TV situation, because there's also that they will go through everything and anything and potentially use it against me. And I wouldn't necessarily want that to be what I'm remembered for, or to because I'm not that person anymore. I'm like, now, since becoming a teacher, I am a very different person. We talked about this before, like pre-becoming a teacher and post-becoming a teacher, that you do kind of develop this moral compass. Some people don't, but I think the majority of us do develop this kind of strong morality in kind of who we are and how we present ourselves and how we act in public in case we see students. And I think we have to think about that. But then I know I've got friends that are police officers and they're exactly the same. Very, very respectable here. Take them on holiday to Budapest. Not the same person. And I think it is that, like, we kind of have to hold ourselves into that category. But then there's the other part of me that would love the opportunity to go and be that person, that advocate for teachers, and show that there are good teachers and that we are human, and that generally we just want what's best for kids, and that if this sector is not being funded correctly and we are not supporting these students in the way we can, and be an advocate and fight for them. And then there's the other side of me as well, with the having being a domestic violence survivor. I'd love to champion that and show women that they can succeed and still be successful, and it doesn't define them. But there is that horrible evil side of reality TV, and I feel like the couple that kind of got away with it on Love Island, I do feel they've kind of disappeared off a little bit. Though social media is still kind of there. She does a lot more things than him, and he very openly does say, I still want to go back to teaching because I love it and I want to make a difference. Like I genuinely enjoy what I do. And I think that obviously if the kids respect that, and also it's kind of one of those, isn't it? Like, actually, if you only teach up to 16, how many of those kids are going to be watching Love Island? So once you've got a year or two gone, the next lot aren't really going to remember. And I doubt they're going to really search for you, or that novelty will wear off when that video goes round once around the school. Like, oh, Sarah, were you on Love Island? And then everyone will forget it the next week. Like, would it bring your reputation that much into...
I think it would depend on your antics, wouldn't it? But I am interested in the idea of teachers, utilizing their platform, be it Teacher Talk, which we've also talked about, rather than for, am I totally against the idea of kind of Teacher Talk and things like that for personal gain? No, my caveat is the kind of the student exploitation side of it. But maybe there is a case to be made from a reality TV point of view and from a kind of social media Teacher Talk point of view that, an open discussion about how we can utilize these platforms for the benefit of the profession, rather than kind of having the discussion where we're sort of going, oh God, this probably isn't a good idea and that's probably not a good idea. Is there a way, and I suppose it's kind of really a sort of almost a good point to kind of towards the end of our show to kind of think about, can any of this be a force for good?
I'm going to pay caveat again. So if I was to play on the fact that I'm a teacher, play on everybody's kind of understanding what a teacher is, and do a bit of a Cameron Diaz. So I'll wear a knee-length pencil skirt with a shirt that's kind of a little one button too low, sit on a desk with a heel and tap it. But then I'm talking an amazing sense, but I'm using that kind of teacher aspect to get everyone's attention to therefore do my Teacher Talk. Would that be acceptable, Lucy?
Oh, probably not. Again, if you're wearing
it'd be better for me to sell feet pictures. You'd be more comfortable with that.
You're digging my beach, my sand pit hole for me there. So I'm just going to bury myself in after this. I just don't want to get cancelled. No, I don't have enough followers to be cancelled.
I feel like we've coloured within the lines, I feel, tonight.
I think so. But it's, sitting on a pen, oh gosh. You're just giving me awful images of fetishization of teachers again, where I'm just like,
isn't it? And I think this is the issue. And I do feel like as much as I don't want to go down the feminism route, but I do think there'll be it is slightly different for male teachers than it is for female teachers. I do think that it's quick to judge a woman and go, oh, they're using their looks, they're doing that. But actually, if there was a man just taking pictures of himself in boxers versus this woman that's taking pictures in her underwear that's got the sack for it, is that I don't think people would complain so much about a man being in boxers. I just don't think it would cause national newspaper headlines.
And actually, in fairness, I say this now, and I'm sure someone within a 5-minute Google could maybe find a male teacher that's sort of been splashed all over one of our many fine tabloids. But all the stories I found were related to women, every single one. But I didn't Google specifically women. I Googled. I can't remember what I Googled. I think it was teachers and OnlyFans.
Delete in the search history. Okay.
Yes, or just the search history for this. It's like when I had to do I did my master's in criminal justice, and I had to do a essay on cybercrime and kind of exploitation and things like that, and certain websites. And honestly, the search history was colourful, to say the least. But yes, certainly after doing this, you do have to be really careful what you Google, and don't use don't use your school laptop for that one. But it's all in the name of research for Teachers Talk Radio. You know, that's.
I think it's an interesting conversation, and I think that's the thing about Teacher Talk Radio is we have a wide variety of shows and topics, and I think everyone was very quick to go, no, this person shouldn't do that. But I'm like, actually, if they're earning £15,000 extra on the side of teaching and they're barely doing anything, well, fair play to them. If it's like, is it affecting them as being a teacher? Like, I think it is one of those. There is a grey area in terms of what they're doing. If they're doing sexual acts and they're actually naked and people can see stuff, then I do think then you aren't being respectable and kind of considering the school and the place that you're working at.
Yeah, I mean, by all means, you know, you want to work and do that. That is fine, and you know, I don't like this, but you do you. But I think there are situations where you cannot have your proverbial cake and eat it too.
But I do think that there is a bit of like automatically someone hears OnlyFans and goes, absolutely not. Like that they need to be sacked. And actually, I feel like, who are we to dictate in that situation? And actually, it goes back to that original point. For anybody that instantly goes, absolutely not, they should be sacked. Actually, maybe we need to be saying that teachers need to be paid more.
Well, this is it. I mean, this is ultimately what this whole conversation really boils down to. If you are getting people who are, you know, entering into these things that we kind of are, some of us are a bit sort of snooty about and a bit kind of, then it does beg the question. Well, you know, if our profession was made more attractive and we felt we could talk about it more positively, and I know this came up a weekly review at the weekend, you know, around sort of negative language surrounding teaching. There's so much of that. A lot of this needs to be kind of flipped back up the right way round, and you know, then maybe people wouldn't be looking into, or you know, sort of riskier alternatives or more risque alternatives. What's JBL saying? It doesn't affect your ability to teach, but it can affect your standing as a teacher, which I think is, what I was trying to badly articulate earlier in the show. It's your capability as a teacher is not what I'm interested in. It's you know, that I think stands. It's the sort of, I suppose, the societal impact. Do I mean that? No, that seems.
And I think it's one of those as well that once you've done it, you can't undo it. It will be on the internet forever. Like these things will come back and haunt you. I always joke that I won't do anything like that because one day I'm going to be education secretary and then prime minister and I'm going to run the country. So therefore I just can't. So like, it's one of those
first, people.
Yeah, I'm coming for that 10 Downing Street. But it is one of those, isn't it? That you have to live with that consequence. If you are comfortable with it and you're okay with it, then I think own it. And I also think as a society, as teachers, we need to not go, oh my God, shame that teacher, sack them, how dare they do that? And actually kind of go, why have they had to take themselves to this level? What are they doing? Actually, if school well-being and there were more support places in place, and because I know that some trusts and things have places that you can go to and speak to people, and they actually can give you kind of almost loans and things to support you. I know a teacher that went to a school who went through divorce, had no money, and had run out of oil and couldn't heat them, and the school gave her an advance so she could buy oil so she could heat her home. Like, and I think this is also part of it, is that people get to that point because they're desperate and they can't pay their bills. We do teaching because we love it, not for the pay. And actually, if somebody's having to resort to this to support it, then there's an issue. They're not doing it because they want to, otherwise they'd have left teaching. Like, they want to still do you know what I mean? Like, if you wanted to kind of take your clothes off for a camera, you wouldn't be doing teaching. Like, they're doing it because they're backed against a wall and they have no alternative option, and that is the easiest option that will fit around teaching, that they can kind of do within their wheelhouse. Because this woman, like we discussed, she is a single mother of the kids. She can't go out and work and have a job in the evenings or the weekend. She's got a child to look after. So I completely understand how she's got to that point. But as a school, shaming her and taking off her license to teach, I feel is a step too far. We should be more understanding. And I do agree, if you're doing that, you shouldn't really be teaching. But also, we're all allowed to have adventures and do other things. And if she wanted to come back, I think that should be allowed. And then she was going to have to deal with the consequences if students do find it, and then have to explain that was a past life of mine. I did do that for a period because of the X, Y, and Z. But it's making sure those staff have the support and mental support and kind of around them to make sure that they're okay in that situation.
For sure. But I also think that is it Kirsty Buchan? Kirsty? I can't remember her exact. I've just closed the page rather stupidly that I had the article on. But it also sounds like the school kind of succumbed to parental pressure, or at least that's how it was spun in the article. We don't know either way. But it is interesting, and again, kind of going back to the morality of it all, that, we're, again, with us, it's very quick. People are always very quick to call teachers' moral compass into question. Very rarely do they unpack it as we have. Well, why have they had to resort to that? And why are we in a situation? It's very quick to, hang, draw, and quarter you in kind of the sort of the school town square, as it were. But they're not willing to kind of go beyond that. Oh, well, you can't possibly be teaching my child because you've got parts of your body out on the internet. There's no kind of, why has my child's teacher had to do that? People can't a lot of the time sort of see in front of their own, beyond their own noses, which I think is always quite interesting.
I think as well, like that whole aspect of what she was saying about how the kids found out. So these kids are either stealing parents' credit cards and creating login accounts, which are charging their parents' cards, and they're not picking up that it's charged the cards. I very much doubt they found their teacher on their first attempt at going on OnlyFans. Or their parents have been on it and have their own accounts, in which case it's pot kettle black, surely.
Well, this is it, and they're free to, as grown adults, to indulge in what they want. Again, my caveat being, as long as you're not harming yourself or anybody else, and it's legal, which it is. I mean, and maybe this is something that needs to be discussed with teachers more readily, because I don't remember. I mean, again, this wasn't really a thing when I teacher trained, but I certainly have not heard anyone on X or anything say that, sort of, say that they've had kind of teacher training, or sort of not teacher training, but kind of CPD on this, or kind of sessions on this, where they have discussed this and where those lines are. But I suppose the sort of the line that's always thrown back is, well, it's in breach of teacher standards. It's in breach.
Yeah, but does this kind of thing need to be added into teacher training, like you say? Because obviously, when I did my teacher training, I had it discussed, like, don't befriend students on social media. That was pretty much it. Don't call off your mobile, or make sure you block your number if you call at home, like that kind of thing. Like, there wasn't, don't get drunk at school events, which happened a lot when I was a kid. Like, my teachers got drunk regularly. To the point where I remember being on a music trip, and our music teacher got so drunk at bowling, he came home to the hotel still in his bowling shoes. But obviously, I was young a long time ago. So is this kind of one of those things that does need to be updated? But because actually, if you're a young teacher and you're trying to study and pay for university and all that stuff, do you necessarily realise that you could get fired if they find out if it's an OnlyFans account? And if you've got an old OnlyFans and you did it like whilst you're at university, and then have become a teacher and you don't use it, but the account's still there and the images and stuff are still there, can that mean that you can then get like fired after the fact?
See, I would that would be I think that would be unfair. If you agree to kind of close out the account and then could carry on, I think that's That's fun. Because the thing is, and again, in the internet age, and this is kind of a wider discussion, and again, one for another time, because I realize we're rapidly running out of time on this show. We live in a society where increasingly more, our lives are online. There are going to be things, you see all the time about people getting cancelled for kind of silly tweets and things. And, it makes me think about, God, have I sort of said something, that's kind of maybe ill thought out at the time? And it's just, people do grow, people do evolve, people do change, people go and do other things. People have, as you say, had lives before they were teachers. So, maybe this whole thing does need looking at again, because I don't necessarily think that the rules that have been applied previously can still wholeheartedly apply now.
Well, Lucy, I did not think we were going to get a whole hour and a half show out talking about OnlyFans, but well done for taking this joke and running with it.
The thing is, you're just now going to throw. So I would say that on the back of this, do kind of send show suggestions our way, but I'm now slightly scared because I'll probably say yes to all of them. And Hannah's now got to kind of outdo herself for next time. Although I need to double check about next week, but we'll talk about that afterwards.
Oh, I think next week we've got somebody on. We're going to talk about attainment, I think, next week, which should be a good one. And then we think Roger's nicking our spot the week after, isn't he?
Yeah.
So we've got that. But a big thank you to John Catt, our sponsors, for sponsoring this show and making this kind of content happen. Like, without them, you wouldn't get such variety in your Teacher Talk radio shows. So we are brought to in partnership with John Catt Educational Publishers and professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. I mean, there you go, Lucy. Maybe me and you need to write a book about ethics in teaching, and we'll get John Catt to publish it, and then we will be changing the teacher world and what is right and what is wrong, and making sure we judge people fairly and evenly without bias.
And this is before your run at education secretary, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fabulous. Just making sure. Oh, thanks, JBL. Appreciate you as always. Right. I think that's it for this week. So we will do this all again next time.
Yeah, so enjoy the rest of your half term, everybody. Like we said, if you want to be a guest and come chat to us or give us a topic, then do let us know. Or maybe you've gone, you know what, they look like they're having a whale of a time, I'd love to be a host. Then do also get in contact, because we've got a few spots. And you get to do this. You get to talk about random teaching things that will make you giggle and laugh. And I hope you, on the other end of listening back to this podcast, have also found it good fun nature and a bit of something a bit different and lighthearted for half term. So enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you shortly.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.